All right, today I'm excited to welcome Tracy Brinkmann to the show. Tracy, thanks for joining me. How's it going today?
Man, I am three shades of wonderful, man. How about yourself?
I I like it. I like the three. That's a new one. That perfect. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We had a big cold snap here in Tennessee for a little bit, and then it's been 75 and sunny the last 2 days. So every minute
Nice.
I'm not on the computer, I'm outside trying to soak that up. So.
I
Um,
don't blame you.
Anyway, Tracy, the show, we like to talk about how people got to where they're at, things that have shaped
Sure.
their journey. But first, we like to introduce ourselves. So could you introduce yourself to the audience, let them know who you are, where you're at now, and then we'll kind of go back and figure out how you got
Go
there.
back. Sure. I mean, I'm the humble host of my own podcast. I'm the Dark Horse Entrepreneur. Yeah, man, it is. What do you want to know? I tell you what. I'll give you the cliff notes, and we can go wherever you want to. I
Perfect.
am the I am a former vet, the third generation veteran, father, grandfather, all served in the military. Ended up joining the service right out of high school. After that, got out of the military and started a little computer programming business. Got addicted to meth. Got out of that. Started my corporate career. Started coaching. Lost a daughter. Uh, had a wicked divorce, bankruptcy. Kick yourself up, pick yourself up, and then restart all over again. Uh, that's the nutshell. So wherever we want to dig at, I mean, I'm just your average Joe that is, trying to make it a little bit better for himself and his family, and perhaps a couple other folks as well.
Man, I don't know if I would have got up that many times. I've been through some stuff, and I'm in my late 40s. I've been through a fair share in my 48 years, but holy crap, man! It's been a ride for you for sure.
Dude.
Let's let's go back to childhood.
Sure.
What you want to be? Did you always want to be a soldier? You said you're our third generation, but was there something you wanted to be as a kid before you took that path
It's
into the
funny you
military?
asked that. I mean, I can remember a couple of different paths I wanted to take, and I mean, the usual. Hey, I want to be an astronaut. But when I started getting serious about things, I actually at one point I wanted to be a forensic pathologist, which was kind of cool. And I was probably influenced by the show Quincy that was very popular at the time. I just dated myself, everybody. But I thought it was cool how he was out there using that skill to solve mysteries and to help people. And that just worked for me. Shortly after, and the reason I didn't follow that path is because I'm red green colorblind.
Okay.
And as you can probably imagine, you could misdiagnose a tissue based on its color. Don't want to kill anybody. So we didn't follow
Right.
that path. I also at one point wanted to be a stuntman. We lived in my dad when he finally retired. We settled into Southern California, so the movies were being filmed all around us all the time. And I was the crazy, red-blooded American boy that did all the crazy stuff. I mean, you build the ramps, you jump the bikes. I mean, at one point, I told everybody, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump 3 cars." Evil Knievel days. I'm going to jump 3 cars down here at the school, and I tell everybody that for a week. We built this giant ramp, and there was probably 50 kids and a couple of parents there to watch as I did that. I jumped my bike from one house to the next, and
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
all that insane stuff. And I was a big fan of martial arts. I had started learning martial arts, and I was like 9 or 10.
Right in that
And so,
wheelhouse where parents are
yeah,
like, "We
so
got to get this kid a
it all
hobby."
kind of played together. I was so serious about it that I think I want to remember the age correctly. I think I was either 15 or 16. I rode my bike. I was 15 because at 16 I had my car. I rode my bike from Norwalk, California. So from basically about 10 miles north of Disneyland, so everyone can kind of picture it, all the way up to just about Hollywood. And I did that because I was going to the Screen Actors Guild for stuntmen because I
Okay.
wanted to find out what it is I needed to do. So I rode my bike all the way up there and I talked to the guys and they told me what they needed and they gave me the paperwork. And you had to join the SAC and do all these all these stupid things. I felt it was stupid at the time. So that put that dream into the trash bin.
So 16 with a broken heart and a broken spirit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
kind of you end up at the end of high school and decide to go straight in the military. Was that the easy button choice?
You know what? That was I'm doing stupid shit with my life choice. I was starting to hang out with the wrong crowd, making bad choices. And so it was one of those ones where, if I went back into the military environment, I thrived there. I mean, I grew up in it because, like I said, my dad retired from it. And so I figured, okay, how bad could it be? I know everything. At least I know everything from the outsider's perspective, about as close to the inside as I could be. And I went and I took the psychological evaluation and got good scores. And I was sitting in front of my recruiter, and he said, "Well, you did pretty good here. You get your choice of either duty station or MOS." And for those that don't know military speak, MOS means your job, what it is you're going to do. And I said, "Well, I want to go to Germany." He goes, "Well, shit, you could choose your duty station and your MOS." Because no one wanted to go to overseas. Everyone wanted to go to Hawaii or, Florida or Southern California. And I'm like, "No, man, send me back to Germany." And
Were you
so
there as a child? Was your dad
I
stationed there?
was. I actually ended up spending. My dad did 2 tours over there as I was growing up, so I could speak the language. I knew the whole uh, southern Bavaria areas because we were both times we were over there. We were located in Bamberg, and then Schweinfurt, no, Bamberg and Pirmasens. I was trying to remember. I drew a blank. 61 years old to do that to you. So I asked to go back to Europe, and I had a great time. I did 6 years over there, and I went airborne, as you can see behind me here, and I had a blast. And I got out of the service, and
Was there thoughts of doing career service, or was that
There
just
was. There was a short bit of thought, but here's what happened for me. When I signed up on the delayed entry program where you could sign up at like I think it was 16 or better with your parents' signature, which my dad was like, "Yeah, sure, go." um,
shape this
but
kid up?
yeah, so I signed up like in June, but I didn't deploy until February. So I signed up, and as things got closer and closer, you get that little fear. You don't know something new is about to happen. And I asked my then girlfriend to marry me.
Mm.
In hindsight, is always 2020. The only reason I did it is because I wanted to take a piece of home with me, which is a really shitty reason to marry someone. Okay. Luckily, me and her were still friends. We weren't always friends. I mean, let's be honest. But we're friends nowadays. We keep up with each other. And when I got overseas, I instantly what was really cool. So I go through basic training and I go through AIT, and then I take 30 days leave. They said you can either go home and take 30 days leave, or you can go straight to your duty station. And it was summertime. I'm like, shit, I'm ripped. I'm looking banging. I'm going back to Southern California, hit a few waves, look good for the ladies. Oh shit, I'm married. Damn it.
I'm married.
And then when I go overseas, I end up getting stationed at a place where one of the gentlemen that I went to basic training with was stationed, and he didn't take the 30-day leave. He went straight over there.
Hmm.
So when I landed and got processed in, and that's what my job was. I worked at what was called the RPC Center, the Regional Personnel Center. So we did all the paperwork shuffling for the whole base. He was already there, knew all the landmarks to go take me to. And my first night there, he went out and got me hammered.
In
Oh my
Germany? No
gosh.
way.
Oh my God. And yeah, you know, it's, back then I wasn't really a drinker. I'm still not, and so getting over there to Europe where the beer is what 3 times stronger, just regular. And I was a rum guy, and they had this rum there that was just wow. That next thing I'm stumbling my way back to the barracks. They actually my barracks were. We were on the top floor over the dispensary, which was like the little hospital. and that was 6 floors up.
Mm.
I made it 1 floor. They literally had to carry me over their shoulder, their other 5 floors. I was so trashed. So that stopped my drinking career, thank goodness. But the reason I didn't elongate my stay in the military is because I brought my wife over there at the time, and we moved off base and everything. And I was like, I, I can't do this. I can't do. So it was either get a divorce and stay in the military, or stay together and try to make it work, in civilian life. And so I left the military, went back to Southern California, and as soon as I got back to Southern California, it was like all the things that were available were showing themselves, and that really put that wedge in our relationship because, like I said, I shouldn't have married her in the first place because I married her for all the wrong reasons.
Right. Did she know that? I mean, did she know
Well,
that it
she
wasn't?
figured it out, obviously. I mean, while we were overseas, we did everything together because she couldn't speak the language and she was,
Right.
the dependent. So I was with her all the time. Unless I was at work, I was with her all the time. And so when that, I go back stateside, and I'm not doing that. And that starts the classic naggy wife kind of thing starts, and I'm like, no,
You're
no,
done.
I will avoid that rather than get into it. And so it just gets further and further and further apart. So yeah, it I like I said, I married her for all the wrong reasons.
Where did you go there? Where did your career kind of take you? You're out of the military. I mean, you have training.
Hmm.
Um, is that something you pursued, or did you just start again and take a different path?
Well, while I was in the military, I started getting into computer programming. And mind you, this is way, if anyone's seen the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, same time frame, same
Okay.
area actually, where he blew up with all his drug scene.
Mhm.
I was in that same area.
Okay.
So when I got out, I furthered that path. I didn't do it as a full time part of my role in the military, but they allowed me to use my computer programming skills there to make my job a little easier. So when I got out, I started doing that, and I started a little self company of my own, and I landed my first big client, and we were out celebrating and having a good time. Woohoo! Landed this big client, and at one point in the evening, the friend of mine who owned the bar that we were celebrating at, I was telling him, I said, "Man, I made all these promises to land this client, and it's a big job. I mean, this is no joke." And I knew I could do them. It's like, man, how am I going to meet these deadlines? And he goes, "Here, let me show
Mm.
you how you're going to." And that was my introduction to speed. And that started my addiction chapter of my life. And that lasted about 2 years. And the good and the bad at the same time is because I have this entrepreneurial style about me. I mean, I was hustling back as a kid. I mean, I'd go into the school and I'd stop at the pencil machine and I'd put a nickel in and I'd get like 2 or 3 pencils. And I would charge my friends a dime or a quarter, depending on the mood and how much I liked them, for the pencils that I paid 4 cents for. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
And then, in my teen years, besides trying to be a stuntman and doing crazy things on bicycles, I used to paint cars. I'd install stereos. My best friend was the engine guy. So between the two of us, we had the whole car covered. And so, that was a hustle I used to do. I mean, I used to put my ads in a penny saver and you know, uh, do calligraphy
Oh, yeah.
on vehicles, a whole 9 yards. And so I have this entrepreneurial flair. Well, when you get into speed, probably not a good skill to have because like anything, it's all fun at first.
Right.
It's fun until it's not, right? And so in the beginning, you're like, oh, this is amazing, getting all kinds of things done. And then your tolerance begins to build, so you have to do more, which means you have to buy more, and it means you have to spend more. And it got to the point where I was selling to support my habit, and then I got smart and said, well, I don't want to go to jail, so I had someone else selling for me
Mm.
to support their their habit, and I wasn't
Right.
going out and doing any selling, and I got a little too good at it.
Mm.
And when you get a little too good at it, and I'm not bragging, please, ladies and gentlemen, don't do this. Right? Do not try this at home. Is the warning we'll put across the screen there. But
Right.
it got to the point where, the wrong person got in close enough to the inner circle that I was out on a 4-day party binge, and we can go that story if you like. And when I returned on Sunday morning, there was police tape across the door of my condo. They had
Ooh.
literally kicked the door in and raided the place. Luckily, smart, nothing there was found. But as I was cleaning up on that Sunday morning, there's a knock at the door, and there's two detectives, and they asked all the right questions, right? And you're like, oh no, I don't know that fellow. Maybe I met him when I was shooting pool. Yeah, I don't know. I know him by name.
Right.
We don't know each other. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know Brian. Oh yeah, I know Brian because we did this interview together, but I don't know Brian. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and to cut a long story short, because I mentioned I did a 4-day party binge on Thursday, the start of that, a friend of mine went out to a shooting gallery. Now, mind you, we're in Southern California. Guns are not a big deal out there. It's not like you can open carry or anything. Not like Tennessee. Right? I'm in Wisconsin where I can.
All right.
But we were down at the firing range, and we were shooting some of his weapons. And he had this beautiful 357 Smith and Wesson, right? I loved it. I thought it was, it's very. Who was that guy that Clint Eastwood used? Dirty
Dirty
Harry,
Harry.
very dirty Harry looking, right? It's all it's all silvery. And anyway, as we were leaving, I said, "Hey, I might come back tomorrow. Can I borrow a couple of your guns to shoot off?" Sure, no problem. And I put them down in my briefcase in the trunk of the car and went about my way, doing my thing, making my rounds, shooting pool, and getting back on Sunday morning. And, oh shit, right. And so when they did knock on the door and, hey, are you Tracy Brinkmann? Yes, can we see some ID? Sure. It's over here in my briefcase. Pause for effect, right? I didn't think, I'm 4 days into this now. I'm not thinking. Sure, it's over here in my briefcase. Let me go get it. And I go click, open it up, gun. And I get tackled to the ground. And I don't blame them. If the roles reversed, I did them the same thing, safety first.
Right.
And they took me downtown. And like I said, they asked all the right questions. And I was probably down there 4 or 6 hours or so. They made me wait a couple hours first. They probably knew I was high as a kite, so they wanted me to come down for sweat it out kind of thing.
Right.
But as I was walking back, which let's pause the story here for a second. Have you ever noticed they're willing to give you a ride downtown, but they never
Never
give you
home.
a ride back home? What's up with that? Right. Anyway, so as I'm walking home, I can hear my dad in my head. Family first. Family first was something he'd always instilled in me, which is probably why I tried staying married rather than staying in the military. I had a 3-month-old baby at this point, so I wasn't just hosing up my life; I was hosing up hers too. So when I got back to the condo, I called up mom, and thank God I have the amazing parents I do, because they allowed me to move back home. Actually, I moved out into their garage, which, in California, no big deal. And my
Right.
daughter took my old childhood bedroom, and I, set about getting myself clean and getting myself back up my feet and that whole 9 yards.
So it's like
That was,
you got lucky. It was a scare
yeah.
before something really bad
If I
happened.
hadn't been out whooping it up with friends and shooting pool and doing crazy, stupid shit, uh, it would have been a completely different story.
Right, right. Well, I mean, those light bulbs often go off and people ignore
Yeah.
them. It's probably a good thing that you did take notice and got your shit together.
Yeah.
So once you did that, were you able to continue with your business while you got
I
yourself
I
clean, or
could
was it
have.
just a cut and run and let's start again?
I could have, but I didn't. And this was, probably lesson 47. Who knows? This was probably the next lesson for me because, obviously I took a big hit to the psyche because you're like, hey, shit, I'm on top of the world. All of a sudden, ta, 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 whatever, whatever antics you want to insert there. So rather than going back and restarting the business, because here's what my fear was as I look at it with hindsight. I could be sitting across the table from someone going, didn't I just see you a couple of weeks ago doing the thing on the, no.
Mm-hmm.
So, it probably would have never happened, but that was the fear inside my head. And so I set about, I did warehouse jobs. I worked in Montgomery Ward Warehouse for a while. I worked, the docks, loading trucks, just to build my confidence back up to step back out into the professional world. And when I did, I didn't go back entrepreneurial style. I went back to corporate America and I landed a job with Coca-Cola, which kind of started, well, not kind of, actually started my corporate career for the next couple of decades. Took me through Atlanta. I worked, Coca-Cola downtown. Then I worked with Home Depot. Then I did David's Bridal and Victoria's Secret. I mean,
What were you doing for them?
I was doing marketing and planning.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was leveraging my marketing chops, and coolness. The cool piece about it is every position I landed, I tapped into that computer programming skill that I had, that computer geekiness that was inside of me, because I was always able to sit down at a position and say, "Oh, I can make this run better, stronger, faster, wiser, whatever it is." And then that allowed me to look at the processes itself to say, okay, now that I've got this kind of automated, right, which is kind of a key catchphrase anymore. Now that
Right.
I've got this running, pretty much smooth, and there's the engines going. Now let's look at the stuff we don't need to do, and start focusing on the things we do need to do to make it even better. And I did that. Here's a cool piece of it. And when I was at Coca-Cola, I was doing this in my role as a merchandise planner for Coca-Cola North America. So we did all the marketing. So pretty much if it had the Coca-Cola brand on it, it came across my desk. And there was all these opportunities. And I was one of those guys that I'm going to ask for forgiveness versus permission, right? It kind of is in my wheel, job responsibility. I'm going to go after it.
Right.
And because I kept doing that, the director of our division said, "You need to keep doing this for us," because I was saving them all kinds of money and finding all these issues. And I actually went out. They used One of the things they had in the environment was the Coca-Cola vans that you see going around servicing all the fountain machines. That came through our shop, and they have all these parts on there. And it could be a couple $1 million worth of parts on there. And I'm like, there's so many things we don't need on those vans. And then we would do these annual inventories, and they would just dump money, send people out there, pull people off the road to count everything. And I said, here's a better way to do this. And we tested it down in Florida, and it worked like magic. And that's when she came to my desk and said, "Look, you need to keep doing this. We're going to create a position for you to do just that, to keep going around, looking around our department and figure out how to make things better." And I was like, "Shit, yeah, right on."
So
And it's
you
just
presented value to the company, and they figured out how to use you
how to
to the
use to
best of
attack
your
me.
ability.
Exactly. And I was blessed to have an amazing boss. I mean, some bosses would be like, "No, you can't do that."
Stay in your box.
Is stay in your lane. Exactly right. Yeah. I mean, just briefly, when we were doing these inventories for these vans, we would send a team of 4 or 5 people, myself included, to whatever city they were in. And they were all in all the major media cities. There's 21 different cities. So if we would go down to Miami, there'd be like 13 vans, and we'd pull them off the road one at a time and then take them offline, which means the other 12 vans in that metro area is backfilling. Okay. And then we would pull everything off the van, count it. And we're talking, let's say there's probably 400 or 500 SKUs on there. And
Mm-hmm.
and some of those SKUs, you figure you're going to a bar, there's going to be, the bar nozzle.
Yep.
And inside those, most people don't know, inside a single bar nozzle, there could be 50 or 60 O-rings. Okay.
Yep.
And you have to count each one. So we would spend 4 or 5 of us 2 or 3 days. So do the math,
Just
8 or
counting.
10 hours a day. And now times their salary, and they're staying at the hotel, and you're paying for their food. And oh, by the way, you're saying you're still paying for that tech, even though he's not out there
Right.
servicing your accounts. So there's all this cost. And I said, here's what we need to do. We need to build a pack of what needs to be on that van, ship it down to the destination, pull that man offline for half a day, empty out his van, clean it, and take that pack that we received and load it onto the van and send him away. And they're like, but what are we going to do with all that stuff? We'll send it back to the place where we house all that stuff and let them count it.
Right.
Let the $14 an hour warehouse guy count all that stuff and receive it in back into the system. And if it's good stuff, okay, we'll put it back on the shelf and we'll sell it. If it's bad stuff, we'll write it off and eject it. Right.
Yes.
And we're doing it at the cost level that makes more sense. And they're like, why didn't anyone think about this? Because they were doing it the way they were taught. And that's one of the, I think, one of the flaws in corporate America. Right? That's how it's always been done. That's how we're going to keep doing it.
I just talked to somebody about generational companies in blue collar work, and companies that we've been around since the 1902. Yeah, you also run things like 1925. You haven't adjusted to
Yes.
what's going on, and your
Mhm.
staff, the type of people you're hiring, but B, the way the world works. And there's better ways to
Yeah.
do things, but they're still so stuck because that's how Grandpa did it when Grandpa
Yes.
started the company.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And
What?
there's
No,
there's a flip side of that. There's sometimes there's things that you do need to keep doing the same way because it still makes sense.
right.
But you got to be, you've got to pick those, peel that onion back and check it out. And it really gets bad when you get into the companies that have the money to throw around, the Coca-Colas and the Home Depots of the world. Because when they have an extra $2 million worth of inventory sitting around, it's like, whatever. I'm going to write that. Whatever. Well, you could do stuff with that.
Right.
That's $2 million that, and let's
Right.
do that 4 times. Next thing you know, that's a whole department of people you could be paying for to make things right. Anyway, all right. I'm preaching to the choir.
Right. So corporate career, was there an exit point? Was there a thing that happened? Was there you wanted to pursue something?
It kind of started to mold as during my time in Coca-Cola, my second daughter was born, and she was the one that passed away. She was born with a distended abdomen and went through, oh gosh, what was it, 6 major operations in the first that she could get on the organ donor list, and she needed a liver and small bowel transplant. Of her 18 months here, it got to the point where we had to make the tough. In this, if you like, I'm just compressing the story because I've already babbled for almost a half hour now.
Oh, no,
Any parent, anyone who is a parent, a true, but I have children, you know what I'm saying? They know when there's something wrong with their kids. And up in Pittsburgh, we were still in Atlanta, and because that's where the organs made themselves available, they could just So she's at the Children's Hospital. Go see her, and one weekend towards the end there, I walked in, and you just know. The doctor said aside, and I asked him the question. He says, "So, if the organs were available right now, do you think she would survive the operation?" Him and on and on the doctor speak, you know what I'm saying? No joke. Grabbed him by the cuff of his shirt, his white jacket, and I pulled him across the hall. There was his janitor closet there, and I closed the door. It's just you and me now. And I re-asked the question, and he finally said, "No, I don't think she would." Okay, well, not the answer I wanted, but now I got a baseline.
Thanks for being honest, at least.
Exactly, right? And so the next question is, well, do you think her health will improve to the point where she will? Because right now she's on machines keeping her alive. And more him and on, but it was a little faster. No. So really at that point, it becomes this decision. do I keep her here for myself, selfish,
Yeah.
which is what I called my speed days. That was my selfish party person. Or do I let her go? Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so tough decision had to be made. And we pulled the plug on the machines and wrapped her up in the blanket her grandma had made for her. And she was a rocking chair. And I literally, this is a literal statement, rocked her to sleep one last time. And it's good and bad. Obviously, the bad parts are kind of obvious, but the good part is anyone who's lost someone, whether it's their child or just any loved one, they know the pain of not being able to say goodbye, or that memory of, oh shit, the last time I talked to dad, I was calling him an asshole.
Right. Right.
Those kind of things start eating away at you. So I had this beautiful opportunity to tell her all these amazing things that she had taught me in her short life with us, and make some promises to be the better dad, to be the better guy, and make her proud as she was going to be looking up from heavens, or looking down from the heavens at me. And so I take that as a blessing. And because I had gone through the pain of, after the doors got kicked in, I didn't want to fall backwards. So I threw myself into personal development.
Mm.
And over the course of the next 3 years, I got 5 promotions. And one of them was that one I told you about. And people were like coming to me going, what the hell are you doing? And how the hell are you doing it? It was almost like, who do you know? I didn't know anybody. I just was doing the thing. I was going to all the events and learning all the things. And, this is when, Brian Tracy and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Anthony Robbins were all doing those big Coliseum-sized conventions, and I was at them all, and which is great. We've all gone to them, but if you don't take the action, and I was taking the action, it was really impacting my life. So people were starting to come to me, and that started my coaching career. And that started me mixing that coaching with the computer geekiness I had, because now the internet is starting to be a thing. So I was early on in that. And so it was a slow pull away, because like I said, you heard me say, I went through a number of big brands over a while. And then it was just like, yeah, I just can't do this big shit anymore. And I landed a client here in Wisconsin, and they were a small cataloger that focused on white-tailed deer hunters.
Oh,
And
nice.
they hired me to come in and do some of the marketing and planning for them and help them blow up. And they got bought out by some amazing folks down in Florida. And the folks in Florida says, you want to come on down? I'm like, no, I'm good right here in beautiful Wisconsin. So here we are.
Nice. Nice. And so you continued to build that. So it was a catalyst of just everything adding up. It sounds like that just presented itself, and a light bulb went off. And it
You know
seems like
what?
you've gone along the path of noticing the light bulbs
Yes.
your whole life.
And the one big switch that was for me was finally putting my fist down like that guy on network. I've had all I can stand. I can't stand no more. I was more Popeye, wasn't it? Anyway, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I can't. That's all I can take. I can't take anymore. And it kind of brewed to the head of a wicked relationship that I was in, for the mother of the child that passed away. We had one more child after that. And because I had that family first dad in my head, I waited until she was 18 and ready to move out of the house. And when she said, Dad, I'm moving out, my wife said, this ain't working anymore. It had been obvious for years,
Right.
but I wasn't going to put my kids through the whole divorced parent thing. And I'm not saying it's bad for anyone who's done it. And just saying that was my choice. I decided to do that. It was an abusive relationship, and it did get physical. Yes, guys can be beat as well. I mean, 5-0 came to the door one time because she was getting all crazy. And remember, martial arts, I was doing the blocking. And one of the times when I blocked, she pulled my hand towards her and it hit her in the face. And she goes, now I got you. Now, mind you, I was the one with the marks all over my face, my shoulder, and my neck from her being like a banshee. So as soon as she called 911, I sat on the front deck and I just waited, and the police pulled up and the lady went inside and talked to her, and the man came out and stayed out and talked to me. And then they switched places. And then the lady officer come back out and says, so do you want her to leave? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, clearly you are the one that has been abused. And I can't remember how she worded it, but she worded it in a different way, because I'm sure there's plenty of men that don't want to use the phrase, I've been abused by my wife. So she was
Before
trying to
you
tread
beat the shit
lightly.
out of her.
Yeah, so they told her she needed to leave for at least 48 hours, and whew, that did not go over well with her. But it was one of those things. But it gotten to that point where I was like, okay, that's it, right here. This line is over with. I can't do this anymore. But I made it all the way through the point of got my last daughter out of the house. Then I could say, if it's just you and me, one of us is going to die, and I don't want it to be me. Okay.
Right, right. Hey, Tracy, we kind of coming up on time. I want to give you a time to let people know what you got going on, like where they can find you if they want to hear more from you. I know you said you
Sure.
had a podcast and you're
Yeah.
running consulting. So go ahead, plug all your stuff, let people know where you can find you. I'll get all the information and get it in the descriptions. But man, the
100%.
floor is yours.
All right, and I appreciate it, man. Yeah, like I said, I'm over at the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, so you can check us out at darkhorse-entrepreneur.com or Dark Horse Schooling even. Our focus over there is, well, like I've been talking about this whole time, is digital marketing, and I really focus on the parents that are looking to do that 9 to 5 escape via some sort of side hustle. Maybe they want to turn it into their main hustle. Maybe they just want to augment their income. So come on over there and check out those strategies. Give the podcast a listen, say, yeah, I don't like you. That's fine. Move on. It's all cool. If you do, well, then, we've got newsletters and we've got courses and the whole 9 yards.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, if anybody doesn't like listening to you, I don't know. You got a velvet voice, man. We
I've been on
jumped
the
on.
microphone for a few minutes, so,
Right, we jumped on before, and I was like, "Nice, nice. I like it." So, Tracy, I appreciate you being here. I enjoyed your story. I can't imagine that. I won't be talking to you soon. We're thinking about rolling in some longer format stuff,
Nice.
with return guests, and I obviously prime candidate for that. We could talk for hours, but man, I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we talk to you soon.
All right, Brian, appreciate it, man.